Hi, that was a special kind of AI intro. Welcome,
Yeah, there you
everyone.
go.
Shout out Zertis. Zertis made that one. We were just talking about how we will be making many of our own, and anyone out there that is good with AI art and wants to help Jeremy or APEC or the community in general with making some intro videos and stuff like that, feel free to reach out. But welcome, Tim, Terran, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
Yo, thanks. I had to log into my account and now I'm in. What is up, chat? How's everyone doing tonight? It's Free Energy Friday, and we're going to be discussing. We have Terran Earthling here, of course, who's going to probably take us down some rabbit holes, and we can analyze some new intelligence and talk about where the whole field is at right now, because we were just talking beforehand. We were meeting and I was like, we got to go live and share some of this, because the arts part stuff that TTSA was floating around, and we got a piece of that stuff, man, and we're welcoming all other labs, any other labs that want to come in and offer their services to the analysis. So no destructive techniques allowed on this very small sample that we have. But again, based on what we're learning from all the physicists and the scientists about these black programs and the real technologies and how the physics of this work, it just doesn't make sense with this bismuth magnesium bilayered material. I think it's other types of layered materials, but it's a different type of physics effect that goes on. And now the question is why was this piece why was that piece rolled out to the community and hyped up as this piece of an alien ship, and then it was going to reveal exotic propulsion technologies? That's a good question for another guest at another time. Perhaps not this this audience, but I'm glad that we have Tim here diving down the channel. His channel is Alt Propulsion, guys. Let me bring it up on my screen. So
Yeah, and I have some stuff I can share. I have a couple of energy things I just brought up too. I didn't know it was Free Energy Friday, so I have some stuff that's actually relevant.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, so on the what's new on the Alt Propulsion channel page, we have open mic coming up, of course, tomorrow night, which is
Yeah, and I put out a special announcement. Again, I think that we're taking a break from open mic for a while, and we'll probably just do a smaller, just like invite only builders group for people who are actively building things. And then we'll kind of come back to this open mic idea in the future and figure out where it's going. We're going to keep doing the webinars, and like I'm kind of scouring the web for that, so it's going,
And
but
just like, so not to start any conspiracies out there, it's nothing like a suppression of it going private a little bit. Just there was some bad actors porn bombed one of the apex, and now had to close it off to the public a bit and restructure and not risk
God, remember that?
right?
Oh, that was we had some yeah. Well, the thing is, right, when you're doing real research and you're putting real information out there, you're not going to get a lot of views. You're not going to get boosted on these any kind of big channels or real networks and stuff. And it's kind of like the way that Hollywood has historically gotten information out is by kind of sneaking little bits and pieces of information into different movies and stuff.
well,
So,
Jeremy, if I could speak to that, I don't want to name names, but we're all like on YouTube and we've all got different channels and stuff. And when you look at who some of the biggest YouTubers are, they're speaking to like entertainment value. Maybe that's the way to put it. They're
yeah,
speaking to a really wide general audience. They're doing stuff that like they don't go that in depth. And and so, like, especially with some of the UFO stuff that's been going on lately, you look at who like the biggest people are, and they're really catering to the culture. They're not going in depth. And so what those people are not doing is like on your channel on Alien Scientist, you'll do like a 2-hour drill down on documents, and you'll run through like detail after detail after detail, right? And I think that like there's this limitation. I think it's cultural, where if you dig in past a certain point, people just can't follow it, you know?
Yeah, they'll like they it's hard to like get a conversational value out of when you're deep down the rabbit hole as we go, you know?
So that, yeah, I mean, but then the flip side of that is like it has more long-term value, and there's some interesting changes too. I just found this tool called exemplary.ai, and it will go through like it'll go through like a 6-hour podcast and pull out key points. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good, right? And so you give that a couple of years, and like all of that material that you put up there, that would be really sweet to be able to see that searchable, you know?
For sure. And it just
Yep.
keeps
No,
developing.
historians are going to be pouring over this like a gold mine, even though it's completely. It's one of those things. It's like all the great artists were poor and starving in their time, like burning their own paintings to like stay warm in the winter, and only like after they're all gone is like they're appreciated. So like when we're all gone, 20 years, 30, 40. I mean, I don't know about that, 50, maybe even longer. Who
Now
knows?
we are making this dream come true in this lifetime for all of us, and that is the point of open sourcing, and that is why we are almost at that critical mass of catastrophic disclosure. That is
I
why
know there's
we
been a
are
lot of
being
bad
attacked.
actors.
That's why they're targeting APEC and porn bombing
But
it, because they want to remove this actual real science. That's why your channel's had it. That's why mine's had it. That's why I lost my first channel. Same thing
yeah,
happened. It's targeted because they're afraid of the open source of this information coming out.
right.
I had an idea the other day. Well, I've had it before, but like it would be cool. You know what would be cool? Like if our community could do like a TED conference, you know? Like the thing that would be so much to pull off. I mean, that would not be easy to pull off, but like that, and
Yeah,
that
well,
goes to
we could sign up for. My cousin like used to do the booking for TEDx or something, so I should figure that out. You get on TEDx first, and then they invite you to TED. But yeah, we could put it. We should. I should put like an updated presentation together on
Make an APEC
technologies.
TED. Right.
Jeremy, you could do that. If you did a top 10 for like the topics that you've done so many shows that drill down so deep. If you did like if you went through your top shows, you could easily put together a couple of TED Talks, right? I mean, you could put together like remember the meta material? You did one on meta materials, dude. Even something like that, you could do an amazing TED Talk.
Yeah, yeah. Just clarify all the reality versus some of the myth and all the other facts about them, because yeah, it'd be great to do that. But the Jason group, so DARPA in 2002, DARPA decided to cut its ties with Jason, and DARPA what used to be one of Jason's primary sponsors, and then so they really, the Jason group was what was basically the government's private group of scientists that do what we do, but it was like the top. It was like they were very restrictive about who they let in the group, so they didn't have this problem of just people that didn't know anything interrupting the discussions.
Yeah.
And that was a great idea. That was what we were hoping to kind of set up with this group. And of course, a lot of good people get scooped up, and they can't like just rely on doing the research and putting this stuff out there for free. At some point there's got to be a trade-off monetarily with everything, to stay alive and buy food and pay rent. So I don't know. It's the whole idea of this Jason advisory group being so crucial to what we were doing with pushing the science forward. That's kind of what we need to the model we need to model APEC around in the going forward. I think it needs to be much more selective. The open mics are fun, but yeah, it's kind of like the spaces on X. There's always these people that join and then they just flood the conversation with stuff that doesn't lead anywhere to real answers and real solutions to these problems, like free energy, anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is less important because once you have free energy and 0 point energy, then the other stuff takes care of itself. And so that's why I like this idea of these what Sal Pays was saying recently, that was there's some better stuff out there. I was so happy that 7 days ago, and this has only gotten 179,000 views, and this is terrible. It's because this should be front and center for our scientific community and the advancement and the things that were said here about the 0 point energy and using the quantum vacuum with this piezoelectric. He dropped a lot of secret sauce, a lot of the hints for the secret sauce in this video, if you really listen to it. So the piezoelectric layer, which is again not found in that parts material, which is just these bismuth magnesium, I guess you could call them waveguides, but the piezoelectric material is key because it squeezes the plates together in the Casimir force, the Casimir effect. And I think that's where you're getting that breakdown of the vacuum energy in the Casimir effect, and you have to squeeze it with these 2 piezoelectric sheets while bouncing a ton of light in there and then squeezing it. I think that's how you get this Pais effect of, breaking that Schwinger limit and producing the negative mass, the negative energy states that, Avi Loeb talked about when someone finally asked Avi Loeb what he thought about warp drives. And I've been waiting for that question for quite a while. Anyways, what's new with alt propulsion? What's your favorite interview that you've done so far this year, Tim?
Well, again, I've got my channel, my interviews channel, right? And I do a pretty like wide swath, I guess, a lot of different topics. And then there's alt propulsion, and I'm working on scheduling alt propulsion. So that's like I've got folks kind of lined up there, and I'm still working through that. This time of year, it starts out really slow. It's like pulling teeth, and then you get into summer and everybody's like, yeah, I want to do something. I'm like, okay, where were you 6 months ago? But
yeah,
if you want, I can do a screen share real quick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really burnt out too right now, just because of all the insanity in the mainstream. That it's obviously that the counterintelligence really ramped up when the Trump administration came in. Then they really want to set the tone for the new administration, so that people are as confused as hell about what's going on. And what are your thoughts on that recent announcement from the FAA about the drones in New Jersey?
Okay, sorry, there we go. Oops. Sorry, it's not going to let me share the whole window. So okay, there, you know what, so I'll start with the energy one. I'm working on this one right now, and again, Sorry, I have to juggle my windows around. So this is this story just came out. It was Brian Josephson, right, Nobel laureate, and then Dave Nagel, and then some other fusion folks. They just wrote a big letter promoting cold fusion, and it hit the Guardian. So I'm kind of excited about that because it could be we'll see cold fusion back in the news. And then the guys who told me about this, oh, okay, I don't have the URL anymore, was the ENG8 Energy. And so let me at least point them out for folks, so that way you guys can check them out. And I think they did just do a presentation at APAC. There we go. Okay. And then there was another fellow also, and I don't have his website. He just did a presentation also. And so it's all LENR, right? These guys had a flame. It was like a flame burning that was doing like cold fusion stuff. So I just think it's interesting that we're starting to see cold fusion hit the news again. I hope that's like, I hope it moves
amazing.
forward. In terms of stuff that I could run you through this really quick. I'm working on consciousness stuff right now. If you guys haven't seen it, and I hope this isn't too repetitive. So this is the Global Consciousness Project. So Roger Nelson started this in 1998. Basically, a reverse biased Zener diode, 4 of them in parallel. It's a quantum random process that feeds a random number generator to generate what he calls like a truly random signal, right? And it's like, and then there's 4 of them, so you get this averaging. So it's like random, random, random. And what they found was there's a correlation between major news events and the random numbers. They become less random when something happens. So like Christmas and New Year's, right? They become less random, but also stuff like September 11th or the invasion of Iraq. And I mean, the obvious thing you could say is, oh, well, people are using the internet more. Oh, people are using electricity more, except that they designed these devices not to be affected by that, right? Like the internet wouldn't affect it at all, and electricity consumption is monitored for the whole 9 yards. So he collected data for 25 years. It's too much to kind of get into here, but there is a lot there, and it's worth kind of learning about. And then I'm going to paste this in. So a couple of years ago, Heart Math Institute down near San Francisco, they took over his work because he's retired and older now, and they rebuilt these devices. And so now it's using 6 Zener diodes, and they're collecting data directly on the quantum output, right? The electrical output of these things, as well as the random numbers that it generates. And so they've kind of taken it to another level, and they actually have, let me see, I think just like he did, they have live data on theirs. And it's not that useful yet, but they have a lot of like analysis to do on it. So the interesting thing for me is that the takeaway from this, there's this idea that human consciousness can affect quantum probabilities. And that's like as much as I have there, but it feels like there's something there. And I had asked Dean Radin, right, who is in charge of the Noetics Institute. He approached this from a different perspective, and he has said the same thing. He said it's not very much, but it's statistically significant. Human consciousness somehow can affect quantum probabilities. So I wanted to put those out there. And then
is it just human or mass human consciousness or certain humans' consciousness? I mean,
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's some of us, but also all of us. And
this would be an interesting time to run just some mass social experiments now that we've got everyone interested in these sort of psychic powers and developments. One of the tests I wanted to do is,
how about my cat?
Well, let me, if it's okay, let me show you a couple
Michael, I
associated.
think your cat has extraordinary. Remember the cat from space movie?
So I think I have a connection. I have a couple. Let me add this in. I could, again, man, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
may have found something, but so I did an interview with this guy, Byron Reese, and he's an author. He wrote this book, We Are Agora. So he's a beekeeper, and he actually wrote this book for his dad. It was really beautiful motivation. And so in our interview, he talked about beehives being superorganisms. He's like, a beehive is a living creature. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's a cool metaphor. I was like, I really like that metaphor. And he's like, no, he's like, Tim, that's not a metaphor. He's like, a beehive is a living creature composed of living creatures. He's like, it regulates its own body temperature, right? The inside of the hive. He's like, they use pheromones instead of hormones. It has its own this, it has its own that. He's like, it is a creature. And he's like, and that's what a superorganism is. And when he said that, I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm having trouble with this. Like, can you name an animal that I might be familiar with that might be like this? I was like, because I don't know if I buy into this. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, your body is composed of cells. And once upon a time, all those cells, right, or their precursors, they functioned independently, but they came together into this superorganism and has its own consciousness and soul and whatever. And he's like, and that's you. He's like, but you are a superorganism, and so is every person and higher mammal on the planet. And when he said that, I was like, holy crap. I was like, he's got something, right?
How
and
about
and
fun?
then so then the next thing that came to my mind was, I was like, okay, so I was like, does that mean that the internet would be a nervous system for it? And surprisingly, he hadn't thought of that. And he's like, well, maybe, but I don't know. He's like, I focused only on living systems. And so I went looking again, and this took me back to, I just interviewed him too. This is Kevin Kelly. He's the co-founder of Wired magazine. And actually, this guy up on the left here, oh, you can't see the mouse. Yeah, there it is. So this guy up on the left is Stuart Brand. Stuart Brand wrote this story. So Stuart Brand is the creator of the Whole Earth catalog from like the 60s and 70s. He's still around. I mean, he's older, but he's around. And then Kevin Kelly is the co-founder of Wired magazine. And Kevin Kelly, the idea that he had, and I'll paste it in here. Oh, that's the one. It's called the Technium, and this article is called the Technium. About, he has written about this at length, and his whole idea is that the internet and the people that connects it, like, we are part of something larger, like we're part of a larger mind. And so the thing that got me about that was, so when you're talking about consciousness and psychic powers and stuff like that, maybe that is how this organism communicates. And then I want to show you one more, just so you guys can see it. This is, I have not interviewed her yet. I have to do more reading on it. This is a lady named Gaia Vince, and we're working on an interview. So she has enough, she calls it Homni, but she's talking about the same thing that they are. And so her idea is pretty much the same as theirs, except that she is also, like, she's taking it to another level and saying that not only is this superorganism, not only is it people and machines, but it's also like the environment, because we're affecting and polluting the environment. And so like, here, I'll stop sharing. That, for me, that's really intriguing, because it's kind of like we're all part of something larger, but these folks are starting to kind of explain it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, pay attention to them, because it's like they're onto something. So I don't know. That's kind of,
I feel
that's
you
what
on
my,
that.
So
you
isn't
know,
Earth a superorganism then?
Well,
the
so the
biggest.
name Gaia, right? The whole idea is the entire Earth is it's all one living system, but like in a weird way, you can't do a whole lot with that, right? Like it's like, okay, I get it, I get the idea, it makes sense, but like you can't use it for to explain much. But these other ideas kind of, for me at least, it helps provide a little more context, I guess.
Well, it's about consciousness, is what you're talking about, essentially. And where did
Yeah.
consciousness start? That's why I was asking like bugs and cats and stuff, because even slime slime
Slime mold,
can
yeah.
organize and grow towards like better habitat and that kind of stuff. So it's like, where do you draw the line? And so if something that doesn't have a brain can be conscious, like plants, I think plants are conscious. Evolution.
And they've started to demonstrate that with them showing like communication between each other, like signs of distress, signs of like warning of like danger to other plants and all sorts, right? And it's like
Yeah, so
where's
it's
the
like, I
brain to
think that they're
function with that?
alive.
They're like
They just
consciousness
do stuff
clearly has to
slower. They're
exist.
like real slow in their thinking process. But did you ever have a bird, like a pet bird, like a
So
parakeet?
many.
They're,
Oh, I
they're,
had two
they're,
Red Lord
they're,
Amazon
you ever
parrots.
notice how fast their heart beats? It's like, whoa, right? Or something like a hummingbird. Or a bug, like a bug, it goes really fast too if it's got wings and stuff. So it's just its life cycle is shorter, but its universe is in a different space time, you might say.
I fully agree with that, Michael Boyd. I've actually like pondered that and come up with that same like idea and theory over the years of actually growing up with two Red Lord Amazon parrots, as well as like I worked at a pet store in the fish and reptiles, so I ended up with like
Well,
tarantulas, with fish, with geckos, all sorts of stuff. But it
birds are
was
what dinosaurs became. They used to be the dinosaurs. When we see dinosaurs like T-Rex, imagine T-Rex with a nice bunch of feathers of all colors and stuff.
Dude,
Imagine.
Michael, they redid. This was making the rounds on the internet. Somebody took, they took Jurassic Park. They took the Velociraptors, and they used the latest science, and they gave them feathers, and they look like giant freaky chickens chasing people around. And they were like, "Look, it's so scary." But I was like, you know what? It takes the terror out of it. When they're yeah. And then I
I
just
don't
showed you.
know.
Let me.
Emus and ostriches, if you've like, I've encountered like domestic ones just at a ranch, and like those things could be
Yeah,
terrifying.
but imagine the drumstick on that puppy.
Yeah, they'll feed a village.
You could feed a family on one drumstick for a couple of days, right? And they probably look at us the same way.
Didn't Australia had the Great Emu War?
Believe so, like
So,
way back.
what's this video you're
Like they actually had the military out trying to shoot these emus, and they
I
couldn't
saw
hit
this
them.
really funny one.
I
where
don't
they're
know.
talking
I think
about-
they even had
almost
like
endangered
machine
now.
guns and stuff like that, and they couldn't hit them. I thought I
Here,
heard like something like that.
Bernie, I'm going to put this in.
Okay,
I'll put that link there. I'll put that link in. If you play that, that's Jurassic Park with accurate reptiles.
Okay. Let's check her out. You got it, Jeremy?
I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Isn't AI wonderful? It's like the actual movie, but with feathers.
Wait a minute, that's not the
Oh yeah,
right
that's
one,
furry.
No,
Oh,
it's
that's
got
furry.
feathers.
is it?
It's
Gotta wait.
looking like a feathered furried animal.
Hang on, I'm gonna have to.
Oh wait, see what it looks like when it comes in. It's got feathers.
That's not the one I saw on Facebook, though. The one I saw on Facebook was
It's like
ridiculous.
kind of like a crow.
Okay, I don't know. That's not the one I saw, but yeah, it's also slightly ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it does look like a giant crow.
that.
It's a
Don't
raptor. It's
not
not a
to
raptor.
undervalue crows.
It's a giant killer chicken. Yeah, okay.
So
That
KFC would be serving these.
Mm.
KFC probably does. Dude, what if KFC resurrected Jurassic Park?
Oh God, Tim, you're giving Google ideas. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're probably already working on that in Ukraine somewhere.
So instead of a giant killer lizard, now you're getting chased by a giant killer chicken. And this is why I hate the future, basically, right here. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's also the past.
There we go.
Potentially.
Look at that guy. Oh, he's just a little guy.
Oops. So what do you guys think of this DC crash thing? Is it or even better yet, what about the drones and them saying that it's
I got yelled at by Ross Coulthart online about
my idea was it was a psyop to start because it wasn't, it didn't look, I didn't see anything evidence of like
the
anti-gravity or anything.
okay.
I agree.
This is my I know I'm gonna get beat up by the internet, but like so for the Jake Barber story, that was the one I got yelled at by Ross, and he made a good point, but like we were in a group chat setting, and one of the things that I said was I just can't buy this egg story. I just can't. It's too far out there, and there's not enough evidence, and
Right.
like.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, basically when you cut through the gobbledygook, what they're saying is if you send psychic love to aliens, they'll give you their ship. And I'm
And
like,
now apparently it's gay psychic love. Like what?
Left-handed
Just-
gay psychic.
left,
Gay
yeah,
left-handed.
left hand. Like just
No, that's some weird stuff, man.
wait, how is it gay
it's
psychic
also
love?
this whole thing. If there's anything here,
evolved him.
it's a child abuse issue because he's talking about children being recruited into these psychic programs, and these being, if children are being brought
Well,
into
they're
programs
getting
with
paid is
government
what
so
I
that they have
heard.
psychic powers, I think that needs to be investigated, like
I
for
mean,
child abuse.
like I'm pretty normal, man. I'm like
My question to Ross is, Tim, is if he was so sure that this guy can summon UFOs, why didn't he have him summon a UFO with all the cameras around and capture the 4K video first and then bring that out instead of running the story beforehand?
for
Because
me,
he's assuring me that they're going to summon a UFO and the Skywatcher technology is going to be the checkmate for the deep state on the UFO issue once they summon a UFO with the psychic gay energy and then capture it on film.
so
That's what I'm getting.
this is kind of going like it feels like this is kind of slowly going sideways too. And the reason I mention that is like okay, so you start with the Nimitz sightings, right? And I was totally out of UFOs, as you know. I was totally out of UFOs, and I got brought back in because I like you guys are into it. I have a bunch of like Air Force friends who are into it. Everybody was excited about it, right? And it was actually like an Air Force guy that I know, like he used to work at the Pentagon, and he's like, Tim, you got to pay attention to this. This is a big story. That's kind of what got me into it, and that's what brought so many other people in. And they had multiple sensor data, right? They had multiple witnesses. The people they spoke normally. It's like, okay, these are normal people who had an exceptional event, and nobody knows what the hell's going on. I I was like, it's hard to believe, but I have no choice but to believe something happened, right? With
But they
all of
didn't
the
summon
everything.
him. They didn't
Absolutely.
summon him with
But
mind control or something. They didn't like wish him to be there.
then we have more stuff that comes and goes. Then we have David Grush. And for me, I've always felt a little uncomfortable there. And the one of the big things was like Grush's story is like, you're never going to believe this, but there's this global conspiracy to suppress UFOs, yada yada yada. It's totally true, but you got to believe me because everything's classified. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, is there anything you can
But
share that's
trust me,
not?
bro, with no evidence and exponentially less than what the Tic Tacs were, right?
Yeah,
I'm from the
like
government,
Bernie,
and you
Bernie,
should trust me.
yeah, he would tell you, but then he'd have to kill you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. I was like, you know what? This kind of stretches it. Like I'm having some trouble here with this, but I'm like, okay, this guy's he's super credible and all that. He's got all the credentials. I'm like, okay, I want to believe there's got to be something to it because the guy's in front of Congress, right? And so now it's like what, like 2 years later, and we've got these guys. And when the Jake Barber story first came out, he did the interview, and I'm like, this is weird. And then he put that Fred guy on, and the Fred guy's like, well, he basically said a psychic love. And I'm just like, you send psychic love to aliens and you can pick up their egg with a helicopter. I'm just like, man, I can't stretch that much.
Yeah, and it's went farther afield since that. Now they're talking about
Another
the
thing is,
reptilians, the grays, and the tall. What do they call them? The tall whites.
I really respect Ross Coulthart too. And I met him at the SCU conference. And like he is the real deal. I mean, some people, like when you turn the camera off, some people are totally different. That's not him. Like when the camera is off and he's sitting around, he was at that conference, he sat there for like 2 nights talking to folks.
who's
He
that? Mike Herrera?
No,
Right.
Ross Coulthart.
So
Ross
what
Coulthart.
was he feeling? What was he feeling annoyed about that you were talking to him about?
Because I said, because I was like, I just can't believe this. And he was like, Tim, he's like, he's like, you're ill informed. And I admitted to that. I was like, that's true. I was like, and the part that gets me is there is this part of me that's like, okay, he really cares. He is not a fake person. I know he cares. Like when you see him on YouTube doing those interviews and he acts like he cares, I saw him in person. That's him. This is like a big issue for him. He's not fake. And
I know,
so
but
I'm like,
he fell for some real weird stuff, man. I just feel like he was taken advantage of because he's not seeing it, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it could be.
I
don't
got
know.
this report. It says Jake Barber claims he was sent to this event, a Greer event in June 2023, by his employer to collect whistleblowers and report them to the FBI and get them arrested. Which is weird, man. So like, I really feel like when these big whistleblowers come out with this bullshit stories, it's like a whistleblower trap because they want, like, the real people are like watching this like, no, this is bullshit, and I need to.
Yeah,
And even
I'm
when the
with
real
you.
people see this, they must be like, I don't know. I really wonder.
Whistleblower is a trick word. A whistleblower in my mind is Edward Snowden, some guy hiding out in Russia. Okay.
Well, that's a good,
Yeah.
that's a good
Yeah.
point. I mean, yeah, and Snowden had to flee the country, right?
Right. So
Right.
he's not getting up there and saying, I'm a former intelligence community employee.
He's not on Rogan.
No, he's
I
not.
fully agree with that.
So it's like it's like the whole thing about the before the election, they had all the big thing was the drones, so-called drones, and then Trump got in there and did an announcement, said, "Oh, it's all a psyop."
Right. Well, and then
it
was
like,
CSA
okay.
approved. And I was saying that from the beginning. It's like there's
everybody
no way
freaking
they
out,
would
like,
allow
oh
them
my
to
God,
fly over.
He let the cat out of the bag. It's like people were all upset, and it's like, what's my whole issue is it's like we've been hearing this drip, drip, drip about disclosure. How many years now has this been going on? And the source we're relying on is the government. And the only time that anything ever really came out was back in 2017 when they let those 3 videos come out. And there has been nothing that's come out since then that is anything that's a threat to anybody.
If I was being really paranoid, Michael, if I was being super paranoid, I would say this is the Grand Tour. And if I understand correctly, these guys, because I think didn't Stephen Greer claim these guys as some of his witnesses? If you'll notice, when Stephen Greer comes forward, when he does a presentation, he has some of the most outlandish stuff out there. If he is the voice of UFO disclosure, it wouldn't surprise me that he's being targeted by the Grand Tour. But and again, this grand, for anybody who hasn't heard that term,
I'm confused. What do you mean targeted? Who's targeting Greer?
The idea behind the Grand Tour is this, right? And this, I didn't make that term up. It came out of a series of books I read. But it's okay if you have somebody who sees something they're not supposed to, right? Like, let's say you see a UFO landed at a base and you're not supposed to see that. Okay. Well, what happens if you disappear them? People are going to ask questions, right? So instead of disappearing them, you make up a story so outlandish that no one will ever believe it, and you show it to them. And so this idea behind the Grand Tour was like,
all right, you've seen this. Now we're gonna show you the real deal. Like, this is what they did to Tom DeLonge. This is exactly what they did to Tom DeLonge when he's like, they brought me in a skiff, man. They sat me down and they,
yeah, and so like they take you into the underground base and they show you.
You sign an NDA and a non-disclosure agreement, and you sign another thing called a non-disparagement agreement. Okay.
Well,
and what a non-disparagement agreement means is you can't say anything bad about the other people, or in this case.
No, the idea behind the Grand Tour was like the idea behind it was they show you so much complete bull crap that if you do talk, no one will ever believe you. And so you go into the underground base and like, here are the reptilians. Here's Hitler's head in a jar. Here's JFK on life support. And they're like,
you look at this guy who was friends with John Lear, who was already in trouble with Area 51 security for poking around there and taking pictures of a Russian MiG out on the tarmac. And is the reason they started having to have security at the base, because John Lear was the guy putting it on the map. And then, John Lear meets Bob Lazar, and then a couple months later, Bob applies for a job out there, and then suddenly he's brought out there for a month and shown all these folders and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Is it true he was a janitor?
He's at work for Fred Meyer Corporation as an electronics technician.
So my first job was the Keir Institute of Theoretical Physics at UCSB.
Okay, well, our new guy, Jake Barber, was a helicopter mechanic. Right?
That was his cover, though. The worst cover you could ever have in the Air Force. But that was his cover for his real.
That was his cover. His real job was helicopter pilot. So I don't know. I'm just like, to me, this doesn't.
And then the other thing that really got me is there was another story that put out about Jake Barber. He was a karate instructor that was in some of these other videos on News Nation and a previous thing, because he taught a class on how to protect his daughter from Taylor Swift bullies. And I was just like, well, this is people that like don't like what's in the mainstream, and I don't know. It's just a weird psychological.
Yeah,
thing.
but at least he didn't kill anyone, did he?
No, but he did say on the special with Jesse Michaels, he said that if someone tries to come to his house would be the wrong house to come to. And I'm like, there it is. There it is. It's the threat to the world. Okay. Bring it on. I'll kick your ass. I'm like, I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
so yeah, I think it's kind of lost its credibility is what's going on.
It's to me,
If they could
I
summon
don't
a
mean to,
UFO and do it repeatedly, that would give them credibility, and they'd be the next big thing. And you know, if we could all, this is a good test. If we could all come together on the same day and say we're all going to focus our psychic energy at once to fuck up these random number generators and also summon a UFO, that would be amazing. If we could prove that this happens or this is real, then there
Yeah,
might be
well,
something
you
there.
know, I believe in the law of unintended consequences. Careful what you ask for there, Jeremy.
I shouldn't be picking on Jake. The one that got me, and I could be wrong here, but like this immaculate constellation, wasn't that BS? Wasn't that disproven? But then, like, I'd heard that was, this is what I'd heard. I'd heard that was like basically like a urban legend, ghost story. It was faked evidence, but then it was in that congressional meeting, that congressional hearing last year, and that lady over and I don't remember what that senator, Congress lady. I don't
Nancy
remember who it
Mace.
was. Over and over, she's like immaculate constellation, and I had that same feeling. I'm like, these people are being fed crap. And I don't know anything about immaculate constellation, but I had heard just prior to that, like
What is that? What is I missed that one. What is it?
This came from originally, you know, Immaculate Deception was a movie that he was going to produce on John Lear, and it's on his page. So this stuff came from John Lear. This is all John Lear, the CIA pilot, you know.
Okay, Immaculate Constellation is it's testimony. Oh, it came from Michael Schellenberger. And retired.
Yeah, but originally, I'm saying Michael Schellenberger just got in. He's like this new anti-censorship guy trying to get thinking that Jeremy Corbell is part of the truth movement.
That's
of
that
UFOs.
One where Jeremy Corbell had the meltdown because Senator Mace said something to the effect that that Michael Schellenberg gave her was her source instead of Jeremy Corbell. No, maybe it's not Jeremy Corbell.
Yeah, no, you're right on that, Michael. I remember that's the exact case. So Corbell.
All I remember is this dude was having a meltdown about how.
I mean, my feeling is like, as I think that the general public is gonna get completely turned off to this. I mean,
that's their whole intention.
That is the plan.
Right?
I think that's the plan. That's what these people are doing. I think that there's that the people who hide these real programs they're worth billions of dollars in contracts with these government agencies. Can pay a couple $100,000 salary to people like this who will gladly take the job and not even realize it.
Yeah, but we got something over. We got something more powerful than they do. Okay, you should ask yourself because we're not doing it for money. We're doing it for love. So that's
all mushed out.
That's where the power is. These guys are just trying to turn
the backpack slap.
It's like sit back and watch the show, or we can make the show.
An 11-page report on Immaculate Constellation from a whistleblower. Okay, that was a lie, and she knew it. She was told.
This is like totally inconsequential nonsense, and they're making this drama. They get the music playing.
He's a TMZ star. That's the whole point of it.
Okay, so let me explain to you guys what's going on. My hobby is doing the government.
No, it wasn't confusing. They lied, and you didn't correct them.
Here in California, I'm suing the State Public Utility Commission because they're all in bed with the big utilities. Okay, and the governor, he's basically on the payroll of PG&E. So
corporate.
And the thing is, I've been suing them for 14 years. I'm not in a hurry. And that's the thing is what they do is they create these so-called ratepayer groups, okay, who go to their meetings and stuff and pretend like they're representing the ratepayers, but they're on the take from the big utilities, and so are all the commissioners, okay. So what they do is they create these fake controversies, is what they do. Like they'll argue over some breadcrumbs of how we're going to give get a few million bucks out of $1 billion back for these ratepayers, okay, and pretend like they did something. That's exactly what these guys are doing. That's their game. Is they're pretending to have a controversy. They create these little controversies, which are just they're bullshit. They're Fox. It's like people start talking about it and I go, hey, just sit back and watch this show. That's what I tell them, because it's a game. They're playing a game with us, and I feel like the only way we can get over this is we got to start getting on these talks where we're actually talking about the physics, trying to do what I did with the Tic Tac, but take these like what we should have done with this, for example, in retrospect is always 2020, right? But with this whole drone thing, we should have been all over that, saying, hey, this is bullshit. This is a psyop. So we missed an opportunity, and
no one listens, man.
So we actually agree with Mick West on something. That would blow their mind.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, it does.
Well,
we get called shills by these people too, that they use that against us if we agree. Like I lost a whole bunch of people when I spoke out about, and I agreed with Mick West about the EID Mubarak party balloons that were Jeremy Corbell was telling everyone was an alien jellyfish flying over Baghdad,
Right.
So
it's like
you can't win.
Stigma is so it's like the government is building the stigma up. They're making the stigma stronger, and what needs to overcome that stigma is to talk about science, talk about what's really going on in the science and what people should be looking for if they want to see real stuff. It's like 99.9% of the stuff we look at isn't artificial, it's natural, right?
Well, the other thing is like, again, like I'm a single parent, I've got like a pile of laundry I gotta fold and a sink full of dishes that I gotta do. That's like real. And most people out there, right?
You guys, dude.
You guys have the same thing. It's like, you wake up, you've got stuff you have to get done during the day. That's real. And I'm into UFOs, I'm into consciousness, but like this whole, where the direction this is going, I'm like, this is too unreal for me. Like, I need something that fits with sink full of dishes, pile of laundry, I could stretch a little bit, but like, it's just getting too unreal for me.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy. Okay. That's the issue, is if it takes over your life, it's not healthy. It's bad for you. So what it is it's got to be, it's like, don't go too fast. It's kind of like I always say, okay, there's this wave coming through. It's like wave mechanics. Okay. Do we want to be on the trough or the peak? No, we want to ride the wave as it comes through. And so that's what we're doing, is we're watching this bullshit and not reacting, not getting ahead of it. So, but failure's not an option. It's a learning experience, right? So this is just the first wave. It's gonna come through again and again and again. So we got to learn how to ride the wave and get on top of it.
That's what I'm saying. Well, this is it, Michael. What if we're all wrong and this psychic stuff is real? Let's do it. What we really need to do is set up a test globally that we all can do. I would like to put like I've always wanted to take a balloon and fill it up with just ever like let out just enough helium so that it's perfectly buoyant. You ever done that with a balloon? And what if we do that? We get a balloon, we get a constant temperature in a monitored room, and then we have everyone tune in and focus on the balloon with their psychic powers and try to make it move up.
Well, I think a more realistic thing is to look at like what they do in remote viewing. If you want to
and remote viewing. We'll do a remote
do a
viewing test.
remote
We'll do
viewing where you
telekinesis.
have,
We'll do all the
where you
psychic.
basically have actual targets where you get remote viewing, and it's this kind of thing where you do it over and over again, and you see if it gets better, because it's like I said, you got to learn. It's a learning thing. We gotta fail a whole lot of times to get it right. That's how humans think.
Because I want to be proven wrong on this, and this is our chat. This is like our scientific challenge to the Ross Coulthart, the Jake Barbers, and the psychic egg people of the world, and all the gay left-handed men out there.
Yeah, I don't. That part I don't understand, but maybe I missed.
It's a recent development in the second. I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast that part came out, or what was.
So it kind of brings me back to that unintended consequence thing. The problem is the test, and the way you do the test, the bias is always going to be a problem when you're doing that kind of test.
No, there's. It's Jeremy mentioned it. There's some development in this story that I missed. You were talking about like some kind of pedophilia thing that's coming out now.
Well, the children are no, it's not. It's child abuse.
No, he was saying it was child abuse to be like taking these kids and locking them up and making them work.
Use the P word. I just they say they're locking kids up and then telling them that they have psychic powers and then doing brain experiments with them and
then they go home to you.
And they also say that
they've been in this government program all day.
Well, here's the thing: is that the gay left-handed thing's a joke, because if you statistically look at psychics, they're mostly women who have had early childhood trauma, and so what a part of this thing was to take these children in and give them early childhood trauma, and then do the experiments to see if that helped increase their psychic abilities somehow. So that's like the real thing.
That's full circle though, back to so there was Al Bielek in the Philadelphia experiment story, right? And then Al Bielek was joined, and that was his story. He had some elements of reality to his story, but his story was fake. And then Al Bielek was joined by this guy who said that he was Grant Cameron. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but I mean, sure, it's out there. He basically took that and turned it into the big Montauk story, right?
Carl Allen.
No, this was a guy. This was a different guy. He was famous for a couple of years in the 90s, and then he got arrested for pedophilia. But part of the story he was telling was training children as psychics. So
not Sterling Allen.
No, this was a different guy. Let me find his name.
Duncan Cameron?
Maybe.
Preston Nichols? No,
Preston
I don't know.
Nichols. Preston Nichols. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that comes full circle. And in Preston's case, if I never heard the details, but I heard that he was arrested for some kind of child something. I don't know. So.
Yeah, well, if that's what you got to do to summon the aliens, then I'm against it. So I'm gonna end on that note, because I have real life dishes and other stuff to do and take care of, and I want to get out of this damn monkey suit. I just went
laundry too.
I like your monkey suit, just so you know. You look like
I like your monkey suit.
A Men in Black suit. And that's what I want to do that one time where we all get dressed up in suits in black and show up to something. That's one of my what do you call it? My bucket list items.
Looking dapper at an event.
right? Just
If
to
they
like
ever
show
have
up
a
to some
science
meeting.
fair on
You
We're
your
all
have
a
a
part,
bunch
nice
of a bunch of government employees are there just showing up, and we're all in black suits and
you have a
ties.
nice suit. You have a nice suit. You get the 1950s G-Man thing going on. So
yes,
He
this
is
is
the
the
Blues
Blues
Brothers.
Brothers, man. I went to the Jim Belushi event tonight, and
Oh, that's cool. I love the Blues Brothers, man.
I got
Especially
his autograph. Look,
oh, that's awesome, dude.
to
I
Alien
like the nun.
Scientist.
Remember the nun in the Blues Brothers? The Catholic nun?
Yeah,
She's
oh,
great.
I did. I don't know if you want to see the photos. I could put them up if you want.
Go ahead.
Here, okay.
later, guys.
Let me.
I'm gonna jump out. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
just see this and then we'll shut her down.
Okay. Yeah, Bernie, put it on up and I'll
Yep.
scroll through them for you.
There we go.
He mentioned the Blues Brothers. So this is, let me see. Yeah, I'll just do that. That's easier. I was able to go to San Francisco. So this, and I went to Cafe Trieste and City Lights Bookstore and Jack Kerouac Alley. So this is City Lights. So, you know, Jack Sarfati, right? He's always talking about these guys.
Oh
So
yeah.
I made, okay. So City Lights Bookstore right here was started by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who's like a Nobel poet laureate, I guess. And then this is Jack Kerouac Alley. I was there with Jared. We took selfies because what else do you do?
Amazing.
That's awesome.
And then, so this is in the bookstore. I'm just scrolling through real quick. This is the Cafe Trieste that Jack was always talking about. And yeah, and so that's, I just wanted to show you. But the downside to this, I'll stop sharing real quick. The thing that got me was I thought that this would be like really high-end touristy, you know, and I was really bummed out. So that North Beach area is like really kind of going downhill. Like, I mean, there's a lot of history to it, right? It's a cool little coffee shop, it's a cool little bookstore, but like that area is not like high end. You know what I mean?
Not
Like it's
safe
really,
anymore.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
it's the cities. The cities had was hurt very much
epidemics.
economically by COVID. It really took a hit, and part of the problem was that when people started working from home, all of a sudden the people why spend like a 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco? The median price is $3,100. Okay?
yeah,
San Jose, for example, which is is in the heart of Silicon Valley, is like $2,600. So it's like $500 just to be in San Jose than it is to be. But in $3,100 rent range, there's no way in hell you'll buy property there. Even if you're a millionaire, you can't afford to buy a house. Okay.
I noticed a couple of things while we were there. It's and we used the map tool, right? Like the driving map, you know, the navigation. We use that to get there. So one thing was North Beach is kind of older, right? And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful area. Like, and it reminds me of like a lot of Seattle and even Bellingham, right? In the area where I live. So these are all like, in a weird way, I felt right at home being there because it was like, oh my God, this is totally like Bellingham where I grew up. But like the two things that jumped out at me were you have to go through downtown to get there, I guess, or at least that's the way that it sent us. And that downtown, their traffic is hosed. I mean, it's bad. And so I had this feeling that like the growth in the urban center made it really difficult to get there. And that might be one reason it's run down. And then the other part that got me was the difference between like Bellingham and it's like, I mean, pardon my French, but it's asses and elbows. I mean, like there were no parking spots anywhere, just on the road. I mean, none. Like We drove around for like half an hour. We're just driving around, driving around, driving around. Finally, somebody pulls out. And we're like, "Oh, you grab that one." I mean, and this is not the nice part of town, right? This is kind of
Yeah.
run down, and
Well,
it was just like,
next time you come, let me know, and I'll tell you where the really where the public housing is, but the parking is free. Okay, and I know because see, I go to the government, like I told you, I see the California Public Utility Commission. They're right in the middle. They're like across from City Hall. Okay, and so, but I have to park there for the whole day. I don't park near the downtown. I go all the way out to where the public housing is, and I park there. Okay.
are you in the
The key is you got to make sure you don't park on a street that has street sweeping going on that day, or your car will get towed.
Michael? Are you in the Bay Area? I thought you were
Well,
down south.
I live in Santa Cruz, which is the north end of the Monterey Bay, not the San Francisco Bay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's not as crowded though. That's out
So
near Sillamar, right?
it's about 70. I think it's like 70 miles to San
Yeah.
Francisco from where I am. So I can drive there, but like I said, parking is a racket. Literally, it's a racket. One time my car got towed, and my friend used to be a cab driver, and he said, just wait a month and go to the auction. And I go, auction? What auction? He goes, oh, well, they sell your car. After 30 days, they sell your car, okay? And you can go buy it at the auction. So I did. And I bought my car back for like $200 at the auction. I mean, they broke in the window to get in, and I'm just saying, it's a racket.
Well, we went out to Sillamar, so we were out near Monterey, but that area out there,
Oh,
right?
Silmar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like it's not as dense. The San Francisco, what got me about that was it felt overgrown. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what you
about San Francisco is so what's going on is it's lost its economic heart. What happened in the other thing that I didn't really talk about when COVID hit, all these people that were working in these high-rise buildings in San Francisco, they decided they didn't want to work there anymore, and they left. Okay, and then the whole neighborhoods just started going down. More drugs, more houseless people living on the streets, and like big companies like Twitter packed up their bags and left. Some of the big shopping, a bunch of the stores, like big chain stores, they started shutting down because of all the theft in the stores, and they had to have so much security. They were losing money, and so now there's like over 50% vacancy rate in the commercial real estate. So they got all these empty office buildings, okay, and they're not lowering the rents. Obviously, if it's $3,100 a month, it hasn't passed on. So the tax base is going. So when those companies go, and the more affluent part of the population goes away, the tax base is gone.
Yeah.
So now they don't have the money to do the basic stuff, right? So it's a vicious circle. Now they just got a new mayor though, who's like business person. So they may turn it around. I hope so.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, and I don't mean to sound critical. For me, it was kind of a trip because again, I grew up in the Bellingham area, and these were like I really felt this comparison. It's like Bellingham, for anybody who's been through Bellingham, it was like Bellingham, Seattle, San Francisco. I was like, there's a commonality there. Bellingham doesn't have the high rises, of course, but they were all built in the same time period. They're all built around the coast. They're all kind of these cowboy cities from the, and I'm like.
So in 74, my older brother Francis was living on Ashbury Street, and I could walk. It was like 2 blocks up from Haight, where Haight Street
Okay,
is
yeah.
in Ashbury, right? And this is like right after the summer. '68 was like the summer of love. It was like hippies everywhere, but it wasn't run down. I remember going by like the Jefferson Airplane House, and it was all purple and everything. These old Victorians, they would paint them up with all these different colors and stuff. I remember, seeing all that stuff, and it was like beautiful. It was a whole different vibe. But now you go there, and that vibe is gone. It's not.
If I'm able to go back, I'll hit Haight-Ashbury. I'll get some photos. I mean,
so it's been fun, guys. I appreciate your invite. So
For sure. And yeah, sorry, I got to shut it down as I'm running late to go pick up a friend from the airport. But I love all of
thanks
you.
for having me on, man.
And we got to do this again. It's been far too long. So I will.
Yeah, send me a link and a random link like you did. That's cool.
Absolutely.
I like stuff.
Have a good one, guys.
For sure.
Thanks, Bernie.
Love y'all. Have a good night.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie.
Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?